Live, and it's the Infusionsoft Jam session for this month. And we have got just a great program for you. I'm really excited. We have a guest presenter with us, and he is one smart guy. His name is Troy Broussard, and he's with My Fusion Solutions. And he and we're colleagues, but we're just friends too. And I just admire and respect him so much. And he's just got just a lot of wisdom, and he knows Infusionsoft inside and out. So we were talking, just about some different topics, and I thought, boy, the topic that we're going to talk about, is in the e-commerce module, which sometimes doesn't get that much love. It was just, I thought, boy, you guys would really enjoy this. So I invited Troy to be a guest speaker, and he said yes, and we're just so excited. So Troy, really glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. And yeah, I do appreciate being here, and looking forward to having some fun today.
This is going to be good, and we're gonna actually do this live. We kind of kicked around some different ideas, and Troy is going to take you live into his application and show you some real life applications to what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to totally turn it over to him, and I'm going to kind of man the chat rooms. So if anybody has any questions, or if anybody's having some issues with what you're seeing, just chat, and I'll take care of those things. The other thing is I wanted to mention, and we've been using Webinar Jam for quite a while, so those initial times when all of us were kind of uncertain what we were doing, if at any point your screen just kind of freezes, if you look at the bottom of your interface, there is a button where you can kind of click it, and it sort of refreshes and reconnects, and that will help as well. So hopefully everything goes fine, and like I said, I'll look out for any questions anybody has. But we're here for you, Troy. We can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Cool. So let's just confirm the tech stuff first. Can you guys see my screen now, Cheryl, or do you have to share it with them or something?
Nope, everything looks good. I see a beautiful sunset.
Okay, cool. Well, cool. So I wanted to start off with that because I wanted to warn you all that I'm coming from my other home here on the West Coast. I'm not out in Orlando right now. I'm out in Oregon. And so my internet connection is a little bit weak out here. So Cheryl, if I start breaking up or anything, just give me a virtual slap and we're good to go.
Okay. We're just going to pray that everything goes well.
That's right. This is actually a photo that's about 10 minutes walk from my house. This is the beachfront here in Bandon, Oregon, the same beach here by another thing. Just beautiful area, and enjoying being out here with family a little bit. So let's kind of kick things off here. I'm going to do a very different style presentation here for you guys today. In fact, there's no presentation at all. I don't have a single slide to show, so nothing is canned. There's nothing up the sleeves, so to speak, right? We're just going to have some fun, and I wanted to pull up some campaigns that we're going to show and talk about a topic that is really dear to my heart, because I think that I see this so many times. A little bit about me, I have 3 different businesses, all of which are running on Infusionsoft. The software as a service business, the most recent one we opened last year. I've run about 4 million through those 3 businesses myself. And this is actually the 17th business I've launched in the last 15 years. So wow. This is something I know a little bit about. I've done it quite a bit. Online, offline, everything from land development and construction through cabinet shops and real estate to SEO companies and now software development. So I've kind of seen the full gamut of online and offline business. And right now, one of the businesses that I have with my partner, we focus on really just maximizing profit. We're called Efficient Profits in that other business, and it's really all about getting the most out of your list, right? Infusionsoft is a beautiful tool for that, the automation and the capabilities. But I find that most people really go about it the wrong way. And after doing consulting with hundreds of clients over the years, I can tell you that if you ask a client when they first walk in, what is the fastest way to double their business? About 90 out of 100 will tell you to get twice as much traffic and I'll get twice as much business. And honestly, that's probably the worst way to go about scaling your business, which sounds funny because it seems logical. Double my traffic and I'll double my yield. But the reality is that traffic is very peculiar. Different traffic sources convert very differently. It's sometimes not feasible to double your traffic. Maybe you're getting referral traffic and it's converting really, really good. But yet, when you try to add it into Facebook, you're not getting any conversions at all, for example. So what I want to present to you is what we teach in our mastermind, and it's about how to get more from what you've already got. Okay. And one of the ways we do that is by focusing on a metric called recency, frequency, and monetary. And it's abbreviated RFM. Okay. And you can see here on the screen, I've got some campaigns. We're going to kind of jump in and show you this. But before I do, I want to talk to you about a topic that's really critical for all of these campaigns. And honestly, you know, it's critical for any business that's using Infusionsoft. Again, it's one of those topics that I feel that a lot of businesses and the consulting that I've done and mastermind that we run, that, you know, people just don't use Infusionsoft the right way. A lot of people still use it as an AWeber alternative where they're just pushing emails out. I mean, you see this all the time, I'm sure, Cheryl. Yeah. Well, one of the topics I teach about in my upcoming book that is going to be released here in a little bit called Infusionsoft Mastery. And, you know, let me just pause there for just a second. You know what, Cheryl, I want to give everybody a copy of my book for free on your list, and I'll mail it out to them and everything. So if you guys go to the link I'm going to give you, let me put it on a different like a little text pad window so it's easy for you to see. And I'll zoom it in here a little bit. Let's see. Let's do a new window here and we'll go to this link, myfood.me. I'll make it bigger in just 1 second. /book.
Great.
Okay. So this is a short little link. If you guys, I will happily mail out a printed copy of the book at my cost and everything to all of you guys. It'll be selling for $29.95. So it's not your typical cheapo book, but this is kind of my life's history of Infusionsoft, and Cheryl's kind of looked through some of it herself, and so maybe she can speak to it. But I think you'll get a lot of golden nuggets out of it. And so just to kind of point that out, I'd be happy to do that for you guys.
It's very practical. Very practical. That's what I like about it.
Cool. So what I was going to say is that one of the things that I see is that people are in this push mindset with Infusionsoft. And what I teach people to really think of is creative ways to allow people to be dynamically brought into engagement. I call it dynamic engagement or dynamic responsive engagement, but ways that when people, based on their action, trigger certain things to happen. And when you start looking at this, and we'll talk about how I do this in the recency, frequency, and monetary, and you'll see me refer to that several times. But what it does is instead of being a push mechanism, it now becomes a mechanism that engages people at the right time. Okay. And this thing that we always teach our clients about Infusionsoft is it is all about delivering the right message to the right person at the right time. And if you set up your campaigns in a way that it's kind of like the old, you know, the books that we all grew up with as a kid, you know, where you choose your own adventure as you're going through the book, right? If you set up Infusionsoft to respond to the way people use it, you'll find that you create a lot of unique opportunities to reach out to them that allows you to improve your business. So let's jump into this this RFM, and then I'll kind of point out some of those opportunities. And by the way, you know, this is not a rehearsed presentation. This is totally live. You know, if you have questions, please just shoot them to Cheryl. I can't see it on the screen here, just so you guys know. Yeah, but if you shoot your questions off to Cheryl, she'll interrupt me and we'll jump in and answer any of your questions. Okay, so I don't really have a certain place I want to get to or anything. We're just kind of doing this for fun. However, we can help you. All right, so RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. And it's based on this concept that if we measure, and the way they do it, there's all different types of formulas, but the most common way to do it is that they assign you a value from anywhere from 0 to 5 or 1 to 5, depending on the metrics, for each of these three categories. So RFM, if it might translate to 555 for somebody that has ordered recently, ordered frequently, and spent a lot of money. Okay, it would translate like to a 555. That would be the maximum in all of those categories. If they were somebody that was totally unengaged and had never ordered and, you know, hadn't done anything very recently and hadn't spent much money, it might be a 111 or a 000 or something like that. Now, most of the places out there, I've seen some other people teach about this. I've seen some other campaigns on it, but they don't go the extra mile that I'm going to go to in this presentation with you guys. It's neat to get kind of geeked out by the tech stuff of tracking something. And that's all cool. Like, it's nice to run a report and see this little number and it tells you cool information. But, you know, I'm all about making money. It's got to be putting money in my pocket, or why am I going to go through this effort? So you'll see what I do is I'm going to show you how we can get those metrics, and I'll show you how to build these campaigns. And, you know, you can ask to see anything. I'm happy to show it all, open book here. But what I want to emphasize is that getting these numbers and kind of rating people numerically on their engagement in these three categories is nice and it's useful. But I'm going to show you how to go one step more and use these campaigns to automatically re-engage, make more offers, and make more sales to your clients. And I think that is the missing connection. Right. When I was in corporate, I worked for Encyclopedia Britannica, and I went from a programmer to an executive director of technology with a $30 million budget in about a year and a half. And the reason I did is because I understood the connection between business and technology. Most people, you know, are focused on the technology, but they don't really show how does it make you money. And so to me, if you're going to put a campaign out there, there's got to be some reason for it and how it can help you. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let's start with recency, and let me make sure I'm looking at the right ones here. So here we go. Here's a recency campaign. I'll try to get this stuff out of your mind here. But just let me take a quick poll. How many of you have already heard of RFM before? If you've heard of this before, you know, tell Cheryl. If you're using it already, you know, if you're using some form of this, you know, some people use lifetime customer value, which is kind of like the monetary part of RFM. Okay. But everybody,
I've got a couple people saying, yeah, a couple of people are saying they've heard of it, but they're not using it because they're not sure how. So this is good.
Okay, cool. And, you know, one of the things that I'm going to make sure and do for you guys here is, just so you know, for suffering through this presentation with me, I'm gonna reward all of you here at the end, and I'll give you a way for free to get all of these campaigns from me. Okay, and these are campaigns that typically sell for $200 a piece. So it's a true valuable offer. It's not like a false, you know, thing, and there's no strings attached. So if you just know that I'm not going to, you know, play any games with you. At the end, I'm going to give you an option for me to push all these into your to your app if you'd like. Okay. Now, the way that a lot of people are familiar with lifetime customer value, right? And that's, you know, how much money has somebody spent with me over their lifetime as a customer. And the problem with lifetime customer value, and it really equates to the monetary part of RFM, is that, again, people just use it as a neat stat, but they don't use it to re-engage their people. Okay. And so I'm going to show you that, but let's start with recency here. So the way this works is that, as I said before, you have a recency of 5 being the biggest score that somebody could get, and a 1 being the lowest that they could get. Now, obviously, you can customize this logic all you want, but if you see here, and it might be a little small on the screen, so I'll zoom in here, but the way I set it up by default is that a recency of 5 to get a maximum score means that you've made a purchase within 30 days. Okay? A recency score of 4 means that you've made a purchase within 31 to 90 days. Okay. A recency of 3 goes from 91 to 180, up to 6 months. And then we go out to a year, and then we go a year or more. Okay. And so this is all about just scoring people. Now, how we do this is actually pretty easy. So I'll step you through that. And this campaign looks a little crazier than it really is, but I'll walk you through it. What I do is when somebody first enters this campaign, it's after making a purchase. So you can very easily start off this campaign by kicking off this goal, this API goal. Now, you could use a tag if you want instead, but we tend to use a lot of API goals with our app. And the reason that we use the API goal is that tags slow down your application, and we don't believe in like creating useless tags. If you're just going to start and stop something, and that's like called a functional tag, then instead of using a functional tag, we'll use an API goal instead, because it doesn't leave a tag footprint behind. It still starts and stops. You don't have to remember to delete it. You can invoke it multiple times and it'll start each time. You don't have to worry about, oh, they've already got the tag, so I got to delete the tag first and then apply it, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't slow down your app with having a whole bunch of excess tags that really don't need to be there, right? So that's kind of what we did. But you could use a tag goal to start this if you're more familiar with that. And you would trigger that on the global action of when somebody buys something. Okay, so are you guys all familiar with that?
It wouldn't hurt to open it up. I am, but
yeah,
Barb is also, she's asking. Yeah, Barb is asking, could that goal be a purchase goal and it just be set so that it's any purchase?
Exactly. That's one way to do it. Another way that you can do it is on the e-commerce actions of any purchase. Okay, so that's another way that you can do it. So either one of those would work, or there's actually a third way. Does anybody know the third way? See how many people are sleeping on me out here. Anybody know the third way to do it? The third way is through billing automation.
A tag.
Yeah, but the third way is through billing automation, because you have those triggers in billing automation that you can, when a successful purchase occurs, you can apply the tag there, right? So any one of those 3 could be used. And I'm not going to go into this, but there's a very important help desk article, article on Infusionsoft on help.infusionsoft.com. Cheryl, if you remind me, I'll look it up and send everybody the link, or send it to you and you can send it to them all. But those 3 different ways of triggering purchases, it's very important that you realize that they don't all fire in the same time. If you have clients, for example, that make a manual payment will never trigger a campaign purchase goal, as an example. Okay, so there's a lot of different criteria of when those purchase goals fire. I don't know if you're aware, but if you're using purchase goals in the campaign and somebody goes to purchase your product and they fat finger it and type in the wrong credit card number and they get a decline, and then they go right back in and fix it and resubmit it and it goes through, do you realize that will not fire a campaign purchase goal? It won't trigger them.
So that's why you use the API.
Yeah, well, not necessarily the API. This is just a way for the goal to start. But I will generally use e-commerce actions more frequently than I will use campaign goals, because they fire under more scenarios. But in that case where a campaign goal doesn't fire because of a failed transaction, even after it's recovered, the only way you can get that to then fire properly is using the billing automation. So anyway, I want to send you that file, because it's for anybody that's using Infusionsoft or serving clients using Infusionsoft, it's probably the most eye-opening document you'll see when it comes to billing automation for Infusionsoft. It's kind of surprising.
Great.
So you can use any one of those 3 ways to apply this tag or apply this API goal and kick off the automation anytime a purchase is made. So yes, that's exactly right, Barbara. So then we kick off the automation, and then we just walk through a set of timers. Okay, so when they just made a purchase, so the first thing we do is set their recency score up to 5. Now, it doesn't matter if they had a score before, we just override it because they just made a purchase, so they've moved to the top of the line in the recency and they get a 5 set up. Now, this is, I'll talk about in just a second, so I'll come back to these. Now, after that, we wait 30 days. Okay, so now this person is sitting here, and after 30 days expires, they move into this next sequence. And the next sequence is going to do, you guessed it, set them to 4. So now they get their score downgraded, and then we're going to wait 60 days and then move them through. Okay, so all we're really doing is putting a contact in and then letting them, as I say, age like any good wine or good cheese. We're going to let them age.
Cool.
And at these different intervals, we're just going to downgrade their score because of their lack of purchases. Does that make sense to everybody? It's really quite simple.
Yeah, this is great. Okay. I love it.
Okay, so the logic, that's the core logic. So now let me explain some of the little minutiae, some of the smaller details about this, okay? So the one thing that I do that's different than everybody else, and I do this with a customer value, I do it on all 3 of these, and you'll see this, is I trigger off what I call thresholds. Now, this is a recency threshold, and what it does is it just makes an API call. You could apply a tag here if you want. Again, I just prefer to use API goals, and so we do an HTTP post, and we use our goal it feature that kicks off an API goal. So it's going to invoke one of these goals in another campaign that will start a optional sequence. So now if you don't put anything in that campaign, or you don't even have that goal defined anywhere, nothing will happen, and it's fine, and it'll just continue on. So think of this as an optional, and I would call it a hook, okay? An optional hook, because what it means is that somebody just bought, and they just changed their recency to a 5, and so I'm going to fire off a hook. And if you want to do something when that happened, like trigger off a custom send out cards thing to send them a thank you, or any other form of engagement, then you have that ability. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a weird sound, so I wasn't sure if I lost everybody. You guys still got me though, right?
Nope. Yeah, okay. All good.
So now we repeat that in every single one of these, but it's calling off a different it's a different score each time. So it's triggering a different campaign. Okay. So think of this as at every time they cross over the threshold and they get downgraded in their score, you're going to get notified and have the ability to then market to them at that point in time. Okay, so this is where things get powerful, because now you can start to think of this and think through the logic of somebody just bought from you, and maybe you don't want to do anything special right then. But now let's say they hit this first trigger at 4 and they drop off the radar. They haven't bought in a month. Then at that point, maybe you want to trigger a timer and wait another 15 days. Maybe you want to give them till it's 45 days and they haven't bought anything else. Then maybe at 45 days, you want to go out and send them a coupon offer for return customers on your latest and greatest blah, blah, blah. Right? And so you can use these different triggering mechanisms to re-engage and trigger off remarketing back to your existing customer base. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Troy, Trina has a
Sure.
Okay, Trina has a question. If somebody makes another purchase, do they come back into the beginning?
When they make another purchase, it's going to stop them out and it's going to bring them back to the beginning. That's correct.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And so they'll always come back to the beginning. every time they make a new purchase. And that's ideal. That's where ideally you'd want your people to have that 5 all the time, right? But you and I both know they're not going to buy from you every month. So it's going to kind of trigger aging here. But the beauty of these kind of hooks is that it gives you that ability to bring people back. And these aren't just anybody that's in this campaign. Remember, who is in this campaign? Customers. You don't have looky-loos in this campaign. The only way they got in here is because they made a purchase. And so the people that are in this campaign are your best people to be marketing to. Now, remember what I said about the mistake that most people make of trying to get more traffic to their site in order to grow their business. We have numerous case studies with our clients and our mastermind clients. My partner and I run a 30K mastermind that we have about a dozen people in. And we work with businesses typically like $500,000 to $5 million revenue range and help them really just scale up their business. And inside of doing that, we've just developed tons of different case studies. And, we find that the marketing to a list of buyers versus a list of non-buyers, you're going to increase your sales from anywhere from 300 to 823% in our case studies that we've documented. The most recent one we did,
wow.
The ads, all the emails that were going to the buyers segment of the list generated 823% more sales than the non-buyer list. That's 8 to 1. Okay. So when I said that, people think that to grow their business, they should be getting more traffic. The reality is you need to be making more offers to your existing buyers, because if it's 3 times or 8 times easier to get somebody that's already spent money with you to spend more, then that's a hell of a lot easier than, going out and trying to find a new buyer the first time. Right. Plus, it's a heck of a lot cheaper too, right? Because now you've already got them on your list. You don't have to pay $20 a lead in AdWords or something to acquire that client. You've already got them. So anyway, that's kind of the whole goal of this RFM, is to trigger repeat purchases. Okay. Now, some of the other things that, so I showed you kind of how these triggers happen, right? Now, the other thing that we do is I have these little dangling API goals out here to kick off and kind of bypass and put people in. So why do we need that? Bonus points, extra credit, if anybody can tell me why they think we would need to be able to start people at different spots on the score threshold. Anybody going once, twice, sold? No? Okay. What this is for is when you first deploy this campaign, you want to be able to add people in the first time around, and they already have existing purchase history. Okay. So we have one of the campaigns that we do is called this controller campaign. And the controller is going to go through and it's going to look at the last data purchase and all of those things. And then it's going to start them in the right spot inside of here when they first start. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So that's why we kind of have these dangling goals out here, but they're just used to kick things off. And then after that, people will just sit here and loop in it and then get added into it. There's, the only way they get pulled out of it is if you stop them. And so, you have to apply a stop call to get them out. So that's something you want to do. Like when somebody unsubs off your list on that global action of unsub, then, you can actually call the stop just in case they're in there. If they're not in there, it won't hurt anything. And if they are in there, it'll stop them automatically and pull them out. But otherwise, they're going to stay in here and just loop indefinitely until you pull them out. Okay. So that is the recency part of RFM. Now, remember, we're going to give you 2 things here. You're going to get the RFM metric. So you'll get a custom field and see that their recency score is 5, and you'll be able to do reports off of that, and you'll get the kind of analytical tracking side of it. But the real thing to me is getting these triggers and these events that can kick off and launch more marketing for you so that you can intelligently resell more. I think that it's really important to keep your list engaged. And, we recently launched a set of engagement tracking triggers, and it was just amazing to me as, we put these on clients and they started using them. And we're finding about on the average list that about anywhere from 12 to 18% is what we're seeing on average with our clients. And this is across hundreds of apps now. One of the benefits of being an app, having a product that we sell to Infusionsoft people is we can kind of, start to see statistical trends across markets. And it's really interesting. But about across hundreds of apps, we're seeing in the range of 12 to 18% of their list have never engaged, never opened or clicked a single email. That's a huge number.
Wow.
And what is that doing to it? It's killing your email deliverability because you're sending to a dead list, right? And it's not just about boosting your open percentages and stuff like that. What you'll find is that Yahoo and Gmail and all of these email providers, they actually look at your open rates and your click rates, and they use them to rank how well they position your emails. So if you send and you get 50% open rates all the time on your emails, you're going to hit the inbox every time. And if you email and you get 8, 12, 13% open rates, you're probably going to be hitting the promotion tabs. And it has more to do with your reputation and your deliverability than you think. So anyway, just kind of a sidebar, but wanted to pull that out there. Engagement is absolutely critical. All right, so we talked about recency. Anybody have any questions on that before I move on to frequency?
No, they're good. Everything's good so far.
Cool. So the next thing is frequency. So we talked about how recently has somebody bought from me, but we also want to know how frequently do they buy, right? So how many orders have they created, and how do we trigger that? Okay, so again, I think you'll see that we follow a trend here where we first check for, this is going to be invoked again when they make a purchase. We're going to recalculate this, and we're going to look for how many orders they've made on a decision diamond here. And we're going to send them into multiple sequences, one of these sequences. If they have greater than 10 or more orders, they're going to go into a frequency of 5 as a score. If they have between 5 and 10, they get a 4. And you can change all this logic, by the way. It's really, it's not set in stone. This is what, kind of some of the standards use out there, but it really varies by niche. And so you have the ability just to change the decision diamond logic and make this whatever you want, okay? But the way that we have it default is set like that. Between 5 and 10 orders is 4, 3 to 5 orders is 3. A second order gets a frequency of 2, and a first time order gets a frequency of 1. Now, as you saw how I like to then create events, this is what we're doing right now. So now we're triggering a frequency of 1 event, and we're kicking off a special marketing offer. Now, again, these are left empty. There's nothing in them. Okay, this is up to you. You can just leave them empty, or you can start a whole campaign around the fact that this was their first time order, or this is their second order, or they've ordered 3 to 5 times, or maybe, right? Maybe they've ordered 3 times, and so you have a frequent buyers club that has a monthly subscription rate, right? Where you give them discounts and promos if they pay a monthly fee, such as Amazon Prime, for example, okay? And so maybe you want to kick off that offer on their 3rd order. Well, now, as soon as that 3rd order hits, it triggers this, and you can put that logic right in here in this campaign placeholder. Okay, so do you guys kind of start to see how it's not just about like setting these tracking codes and having neat little reports that you can run, but do you see how this is all designed to give you hooks to bring people back and spend more with you? Because that's really the purpose here.
Yeah, Troy.
Yeah,
Greg has a question.
Sure.
If you're sending out something when they have a frequency of 1. Is that the same offer as when their recency, when they just purchase? So if they just purchase, up to you.
Yeah, it's totally up to you. That's the beauty of this. This is a framework, and we set up the triggers and we set up the hooks and we set it all up, but how you choose to implement it is totally up to you. You may not do anything on recency in the first month. Generally, most people don't. It's usually in month 2 that you start triggering things. And, you know, different businesses are going to do this differently. For some businesses, they're like a big coaching consulting thing, and it's really not about frequency. It's more about spend value. So it's more about the monetary ratings than it is about recency or frequency. So sometimes, you know, only one of these three is going to be where you're going to do all of your marketing, depending on what type of niche you are. If you're an e-commerce Shopify store, I can tell you what, you are going to be cranking on all three of these if you're doing really good. The best stores on you know, e-commerce, they're looking at how recently you bought, how frequently you bought, and they're looking at how much money you've spent with them all the time. Right. So those typically, an e-commerce Shopify store is typically going to be a high volume of transactions. The higher number of transactions you have, the more the recency and the frequency really apply. The higher degree of money that your average transaction is going to be more towards the monetary type categorizations. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, makes total sense. So people that are doing high-end coaching, they're going to use the monetary more than the frequency and the recency.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they're probably going to set some kind of strange limits on their monetary as well. Like they'll probably customize these values that I have as a default for their monetary, because they might have an offer like, you know, they might have some tripwire offers and then book a consulting call kind of thing. And then they might have like a $500 exploratory session kind of thing. And then they go right to a 5K or a 10K or even a 30 or 50K kind of offer. So they're probably going to have some kind of weirdness going on with those numbers and those scales, but yet it's very important, because somebody that, you know, takes the second tripwire kind of offer, they want to be then making sure that they're targeting them for some of their other high-end coaching, etc. Okay, cool. So we'll go into that a little more when we talk about monetary, but all of these do the same thing, the same logic. They're setting here the frequency to 5, and then they're triggering that threshold, which just does this goal and then takes them here. Now, here's another kind of advanced question. And again, I hope that you guys are getting a lot out of this. I try to make all of my stuff very educational and teaching based, so that you learn from it as well as just seeing something. If you're very astute and really paying attention, you're probably asking me, Troy, why do I even need this stuff here? I don't need to set that goal. I could just trigger the threshold inside of here and just have the email go out here, and I don't even need this, right? So why even bother with this? And it's a very good question. So now I'm curious if anybody knows the answer of why I put these API goals in here. And it could be a tag goal too, it doesn't matter. But why would I put a goal in here?
What if somebody's saying after a certain time, if a certain time goes by, then it would kind of redo it. I mean, it would kind of loop it possibly.
No, here's what it's for. What it's for, it's a good suggestion, and it applies sometimes, but not in this case. The reason we're doing this is because this is our reporting. Okay, here's the biggest, and this is like a pet peeve that I really have to show you, because this is probably the single biggest thing that I see as a mistake by people that don't really understand the way that Campaign Builder is designed to be for reporting. How many people know about this campaign goal completion report? Okay, I'm guessing very few people use this. Yeah. Now, here's what happens. If I run back where that campaign is, if I have these goals, when you go into performance, there's nothing here because it's never been published in this sample app, but it would show you the numbers of how many people, and you'd have how many active, and then you'd have last 30 days, right? Most people that I talk to when I do my training sessions on Campaign Builder and teach them how to use some of the advanced stuff that we do, they think that I can't get data beyond 30 days because that drop down only goes to 30 days. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, if you actually go and use the campaign goal completion report, you can use any time period you want and still get that reporting data. Okay. And so the reason that we set a goal here is because I want to be able to accumulate metrics and reporting to be able to look at that data at any point in the time down the road that I want to without having to tag people and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay. I don't have to waste tags for reporting. I can set an API goal, and then later I can run a goal completion report, and I'll get any of those. Okay. So when you're building campaigns, regardless of anything else you learned today from me, hopefully you'll take this to heart. Use goals intelligently in your campaigns, because if you want to report on how many people have clicked through this or done something else, you can put a link click goal there, and it will tally up that stat, and you'll always be able to go back and get any historical data you want without having to tag people and waste a bunch of data. Okay.
So right. Troy, what has happened for that API goal for the frequency equals 5? What is it looking for? What is being satisfied by that goal?
So it means that their orders are between 5 and 10. So they have they've ordered between at least 5. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I'm looking at my formula wrong. They've ordered more than 10 times. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's the thing. And the criteria is all here on the decision diamond for each of those branches. So it's all based upon the number of times that they've placed an order, the frequency of their purchasing. Okay. Not how recently they purchased, but the frequency. And I'm sorry, this thing is so slow here. I'm just going to back out of this. My connection is not great here, but this is just a decision diamond with a logic. If they've ordered 10 or more times, they go here. If they've entered five or more and less than 10, so 5 to 9, they get a frequency of 4. Okay. And then once again, all it's doing is setting the field value and then triggering the goal. So it's going to set it, and it's going to immediately trigger this goal. And then if you've got any kind of optional stuff you want to do, you can do it in here. Okay.
Got it.
Cool. All right. So let's go on to the next one, which is monetary. So let me pull that up. And monetary is the same basic thing. We're doing a decision diamond, but this time, instead of doing on how recently they purchased or how frequently, how many numbers of orders, we're looking at how much money have they spent with us. Okay. So now we're dividing them up and segmenting them up and assigning them a numeric value for tracking purposes based upon their spend amount. So now we can look at $100, $100 to $250, $250 to $500, 500 to 1,000, and 1,000 or more. Now, again, you can customize these to be whatever you want. There's no issues there whatsoever. So, you can control this logic and make a 5 in your system might mean they have to spend 10,000. And in some people, I've got clients that make multiple 6 figures a year, like, approaching 600,000 and 700,000 a year, selling a $9 product on recurring subscription. And I call it a micro continuity. They have thousands of people paying them $9 a month. Right. Well, they're never going to hit even 1,000. Most of their biggest spenders have only spent like $800 with them. And they've been with them since 1912. I mean, it's really tough to hit high thresholds on a $9 a month continuity. So, these thresholds, you've got to change those around to what makes sense to you. But the concept is to assign a numeric value to a dollar spend. Okay. And once again, on these, they trigger off thresholds. On this one, I just call a goal, and I'll expand this to make it consistent with the others. I'll put the goal and the empty sequence on here to make it consistent. So before I publish them for you guys, I'll put it like this with the empty sequence connected the same way as I had in the other one, so that it's more standardized. I left it here just calling it empty goal, so you could put it in another campaign, but I'd rather keep everything consistent. So I'll kind of enhance those to do that for you guys before I publish them to you. And this would be, your would be spend threshold 5 would be the goal that it would fire. And this would be your optional marketing sequence. Okay. So all we're really doing is segmenting people intelligently. We're doing 2 things. Well, we're really doing 3 things. We're segmenting, We're assigning a numeric objective number that we can easily search for, report on, track. I can now run a query of all of my contacts that have a monetary equal to 5. Those are my best clients, and maybe I want to invite them to a private, $10,000 a day, 1-day VIP, session or something like that. Or maybe I want to offer a new coaching program and I want to send an email specifically to them that calls them out as being one of my best clients, right? So that I'm talking to them in a language that makes them feel special. That's what segmentation is all about. That's what getting the right message to the right person is all about. It's about creating these different segments so that you have an excuse to treat them differently and treat them specifically to their scenario, their situation. Somebody, we get so lost in the technology here. And, think about it, how I grew up with my grandfather in a car dealership. He was the youngest car dealer in all of Northern California for Chevrolet. He opened a Chevrolet dealership at 26 years old. And he became a dealer. And so I grew up in that car dealership. Now, can you imagine working in the parts store in that dealership and somebody that comes in literally every day because they're a mechanic in town and they're buying parts from you for their clients to install in their cars that they're working on in their mechanic shop. And so they're in your office, in your parts store every single day. Can you imagine if you treated them the exact same way as the tourist that breaks down on the freeway and comes in the very first time? Like, if you treated everybody like that in a local business, you'd go out of business, right? If you didn't talk to the people that are spending money with you every day a little bit differently, right? If you didn't throw a little barbecue and invite just your resellers to attend every month or once every quarter or something to kind of treat them special. If you didn't send them a little care package when their daughter graduated high school as a thank you, just because you know them. If you didn't do something special for those frequent buyers as a local business, you would go out of business. But online, we try to just treat everybody the same. And that's why businesses fail. And that's why they don't double and triple up their profits, because they're trying to acquire new businesses instead of treating the people they've got right. And so, that's what this is all about. It's about creating these segments, these thresholds where we have the opportunity to reach out to them and treat them specific to their situation. If they're a frequent buyer, they're an expensive buyer, they're a, et cetera. We have that opportunity. Okay. And that's what all of these campaigns are really designed to do. Okay. Now, lastly, I want to just show you kind of this other part of it. And this is the controller. And this is a little bit hairy. So let me kind of zoom out. There's quite a bit that goes on here. But this is when you first add somebody into these sequences. Okay. We're going to add them in. We're going to update all of their stats. So we're going to fire off some API calls that's going to calculate all of this stuff and, figure out all of these numbers and put it in the custom fields. And then we're going to kind of put them where they need to go. So it's their first time through the RFM. So we're going to trigger that. And we're going to kind of kick them off into where they need to be. You saw those ones for the recency where I had the different starting places, so we can throw them into the right spot. We can set the frequency, we can set the monetary, and then we can just kind of kick them off that way. So that's what this controller does. It's really for going through, and it even filters between customers and non-customers. So the first thing it does is calculate their lifetime customer value. And if it's a 0, it just treats them as not a customer and doesn't do anything at all. And if they're a customer, then it starts going through and figuring all this out. Okay. What I wanted to tell you is I will happily give you, all of these campaigns and publish them into your app even for you. There is going to be, some playing around with it on your end, right? These things have to be connected to API goals. They have to be, connected to the purchase goals, things like that. And I'm not doing all of that, obviously, for free. So, I'm happy to give you all these, and you can kind of tool them and tweak them as you like, and learn from, today's session together. But just know that I can't really support them in that concept. Normally, we sell these and we sell them them for hundreds of dollars. And the reason we sell them is because there's a lot of work that went into creating them, but also because if we're going to support them, we have to charge for that. So I'm happy to give them to you, so it's useful for you guys, but I won't be able to, to support them. The other thing that I want you to know, and it doesn't mean that if you don't sign up, I won't give them to you. I'll do it anyway, but many of these campaigns make API calls and such that will not work if you don't have our helpers. And the reason is there's just no way to do some of this stuff in Infusionsoft without custom apps. To calculate the lifetime customer value, there's no way of doing that without using custom data. To get the last time somebody placed an order, there's no way to do that in Infusionsoft. Now, you can run reports and look at it manually, but to programmatically grab the last time somebody placed an order or the last order amount or anything like that, there's just absolutely no way of doing it without, having a custom API solution. So, this is kind of where our helper, myfusionhelper.com is our app, kind of comes into play. And I don't know, how many people on the line here have heard of us and how many people haven't heard of us, myfusionhelper.com. Curious to know. How many of you have?
They've heard because I mentioned you. In the registration.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
But they are loving this. They are really, really enjoying this.
Well, cool. I'm happy for that. My Fusion Helper, this sales page needs to be redone. We're in the middle of kind of redoing all of it. It's really heavy on information right now. So if you like to just mass consume, then you've got it. Trust me, because we list most all of our helpers here, and you can go through and read about all of them. And they all have pop-up videos, so you can click on this and get a full video. And this video is actually the same video as inside the app itself. So as Cheryl knows, I'm former military. I'm really candid. I don't like to pull any punches. I don't like to hide anything. So we literally put all of our training videos right on the sales page. And that way you can run through any of these and see exactly how to set it up in Infusionsoft, how to create the helper, what our interface is like, all of that. Keep in mind, our interface has been updated quite a bit, so some of them are a little out of date to others, but these are really good, powerful videos, and they'll show you everything you need to know about virtually all of our helpers. There's a few of them that we haven't added on here yet. We just created time zone triggers so that you can email people in their local time. Nice. What a novel concept. Why didn't Infusionsoft think of that? I have no idea, but we did. So if you want to email somebody at 8 o'clock and not worry if they're on the West Coast or the East Coast, you want them to get the email at 8 o'clock, we have a way of doing that through My Fusion Helper. Okay. We also have ways of capturing their IP address. This is really powerful. It sounds simple, but it's super, super powerful. First of all, if you ever deal with chargebacks or disputes or anything like that, having the IP address is very critical, and Infusionsoft doesn't store it anywhere. They put it in kind of the form was submitted from this IP or whatever, but you don't really have any access to it, and it's stored in an easily accessible way. So we allow you to capture that and to store it, but then we also allow you to use it for geo-targeting. So you're able to then, from the IP, we automatically look up your time zone offset. So the offset is like the numeric offset of 5 hours, -5 for 5 hours before Greenwich mean time, or that kind of stuff. We also will populate the city, state, zip code information. We can't get them down to the street. Actually, we could, but it's not quite 100% accurate. It doesn't get the exact door. It might get their neighbor sometimes, but so we decided to leave the street out. But we get city, state, and the zip and country code, and put all of that into the fields for you if you want. Okay, and if you don't want to, that's fine. You get to manually select which ones you want to update or not. And we also even get latitude and longitude, which sounds kind of crazy, but what's really cool with the latitude and longitude is you can pass that to our Google Sheets integration and do real-time mapping. So like you can literally see where all of your customers are in the world and map them real-time on a chart, on a map with Google Sheets automatically through the use of our helpers. So some pretty powerful stuff in there.
Mhm.
Those aren't on there yet on the help page. So if you have any questions, send me. Make sure you have this email, and maybe you can put it in there, Cheryl, for everybody in the chat. But if they go to help,
and I'm gonna follow up.
Okay, cool. If they go to help@myfusionsolutions.com, that is our help desk. And also, I don't know why we're gonna have to do a different pop-up, because some people miss it here, but this big green help button here on the site that kind of stays with you no matter where you go and scroll, that will go straight to our help desk as well. Okay. And so if you guys have any questions about any of this, please feel free to check it out. But we do Facebook custom audiences. We have a super advanced GoToWebinar integration. We do video triggers with Vimeo and YouTube and Wistia. So when somebody watches a video, we can track how long they've been on. This get the last is one of the things that I use in these API goals that we use in these RFM. Remember how I was telling you to get the last payment amount and the payment date? Well, this is what we use. We use this get to the last helper, and it allows us to look at the invoice, the order, the payment, subscription, credit card, and opportunity tables, and for the most recent transaction. And it'll pull in the last transaction and let us grab any of that data and put it in a custom field and do whatever we want with it. So some really powerful stuff here.
Cool.
I don't want to go into it all, Cheryl, because there's tons here. I just kind of wanted to pick the highlights. There's more than 40 features here. So some of the highlights are the Google Sheets is quickly becoming one of our most powerful. I just did a webinar on it earlier today, and that allows people to create real-time reports with live charting data and graphs and pie charts and bar charts and pivot tables and whatever you want off of Infusionsoft data, and then have it automatically updated and emailed out to people as well, even if they don't have access to Infusionsoft, right? So maybe you've got an accountant outside of your company that wants a monthly summary of your orders. You can create a simple report in Google Sheets, integrate that data with Infusionsoft, and put it in a campaign that loops and just repeats every month on the first of the month and sends last month's data to her, and never have to touch it again. That's the kind of fun stuff that we enjoy doing. And, just so you know, there's a 30-day free trial, and the cost is a flat $29.95 a month. When I say flat, because we don't charge you based on users, we don't charge you based on contacts, we don't charge you based on usage. There's no different pricing tiers. We have a couple of super advanced features that require a $49 monthly subscription, but they're not even advertised on the page here, so they're just kind of some hidden features that some people need. But the app itself is just $29.95 monthly. So you get a free trial if you guys would like to check it out. Be love to have you do that, and make sure and go to that myfoo.me /book and grab a free copy of my Infusionsoft Mastery book that I'll be releasing on Amazon here very shortly, and I'll put you on my early notice list so that when it comes out, I'll ship you a free copy on me. So I'll pay shipping, handling, book charges, all that. You don't have to pay anything. Just put your address and everything in there for me properly, so I don't get a return to sender, please. And
that is, that's great, Troy.
Yeah, I wanted to, make it super cool for you guys. And so I'm going to do one other thing that for you, Cheryl, and you've been so helpful with me and supportive of my Fusion. I really appreciate that. So one other thing for anybody that, hears of this through Cheryl, just open a help desk ticket and ask her about, and just mention it in the help desk ticket, and I'll honor it. So no worries. But if you're on Plus This right now and you'd like to switch, we do virtually everything they do and about 30% more for 65% less money. So if you'd like to switch and save a bunch of money, we will. What I'm going to do is, normally we have a concierge service, and I charge between $100 and $200 for the concierge service. And what we do is, I have a member on my team. They go through and they make save a version of all of your campaigns, first of all, and then they go through and audit everything and pull up your Plus This account, and then we migrate all of your helpers from Plus This into our system and do that complete painless conversion for you. And if you'd like us to do that, I will completely waive that $100 to $200 fee. Usually we look at it, and depending on how many campaigns we have to do, we base it at either $100 or $200 on the fee. But for your people, Cheryl, as a thank you for all you've done for us, I'll just waive that fee entirely. Okay?
That's all great. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Any questions on anything I've covered today, or about the app, or about the RFM stuff that we've talked about, and any things that I can, answer for you on that? If you'd like to get these apps published into your account, just initiate a help desk request with this. It will put you on our marketing list, so I'm going to warn you about that in advance. So yes, shameless me, I actually want to be able to sell you something someday. So in exchange for giving them my time, I will put you on my marketing list. If you're not okay with that, then just don't ask for it. It's no problem. But just being real, we're all in this, business together.
We're all marketers.
Yeah. And like I said, they do have tie-ins to our app, but it's not a trickery thing. There's literally no way you can get some of this data out without using our app. So you've got a 30-day free trial if you just want to try it out and test it out. And on the trial, I'm really candid about that too. I even give you a 5-day warning email that says, hey, we're going to bill you in 5 days, just so you know your free trial is about to expire. If you want to cancel, you need to inform us in the next few days, right? So I'm really candid about all of this stuff, guys, and I hope you get that. I hope that came through in the presentation today, and I hope you got some good stuff out of it, regardless if you become a customer or not. I hope you got a bunch of good, kind of golden nuggets out of this, and that's about all I have really at this point, Cheryl.
Yeah. Troy, they're saying thank you so much. See, a lot of us, myself included, we've heard of RFM. We know what it stands for, but we really don't know how it can impact our business. So for you to just kind of bring this to light and put it into terms that we can all understand, this is really cool. Even Joe said that, really anybody could do the recency. They could trigger, they could add a goal, and they could just track it. But that's not where the gold is. It's what are you going to do with it? And
exactly.
So that campaign, if everybody realizes you could actually do that on your own, that's kind of like a quick win, that Troy is giving you. But the frequency and the monetary, right, there's no way that through Infusionsoft out of the box, you can't track those things other than reports. So that's why his product is so important, because those are the things he can do that Infusionsoft can't. So that's, you've got something for free, but if you want to go a step further, his product is so affordable and it can do so many things that it's just a no-brainer. It's amazing. So I just wanted to just make sure everybody knew that, yes, you're promoting something, but the value behind it is just so.
Yeah, and I hope that what everybody really takes into account is my approach to this is that, it's not just about tracking. I think that a lot of people get obsessed with the tracking, right, and they stress about it, they obsess about it, they look at all these numbers, but the number itself doesn't mean anything, right? Like, Plus This has had lifetime customer value stuff for forever, right? And people have been using this for forever, but I have not audited a single app, and I've audited over 300 applications in Infusionsoft that I have gone through. I mean, if you look at any of my stuff here, the apps that I work with, this is just scrolling of all the different apps that I manage. I can tell you that I have never audited a single app that is using these events off of the thresholds. They just use it to look at the data. And what does that mean? They're actually not even looking at the data, right? They just kind of went through the process, and maybe once or twice a year they'll look at it. And so my approach is to really leverage that into something that makes you money, right? So hopefully you guys
do something with it.
Yeah, hopefully you'll do something with it. If you are curious at all on the product, make sure and check out the Google Sheets. The video for that shows you a real-time example. So here it is on the page. If you just search for Google Sheets or scroll down and watch this video, it's about a 15 or 20-minute video. It's a little longer than most of them, but it shows you how the complete process of how to deploy it. And it's really 3 simple steps. And we give you copy and paste code to throw into Google, and we show you how to automatically update those spreadsheets, and even talk about how to just set up a campaign that mails them out to people. So this, I know, has kind of set the world on fire with Infusionsoft a little bit, because instead of having to go out and use somebody's report that they've designed for you, you can just do whatever you want, and including just hiring somebody from Fiverr for $5 to create a spreadsheet that you need, and then just connecting it up to Infusionsoft, right? So that's a pretty cool one to check out.
Perfect. Absolutely. This is great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time and just all your insight. And we're just getting so many people saying thank you. This is great.
Okay, cool, guys. And happy to come back again sometime if you like, Cheryl. And, if anybody needs anything,
good.
Make sure and find me on Facebook and friend me. And, if you have any questions, or if you check something out and have any questions, just click on this help button and send us a help desk ticket. And it'll probably be myself or Nick that answers you, or perhaps my son, who also works for us. So one of the 3 of us will be getting back to you and answer your questions. All right. So take care, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me on, Cheryl. And we'll see you on the flip side.
You're so welcome, and thanks for coming, everybody, and we'll see you like usual the first Thursday of next month, and we'll let you know what the topic is coming up real soon. Thank you, Troy.
You bet. Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.